Hello, welcome to today's practice test. So today's practice test is, as kind of the video title says, probability and statistics. So I highly recommend that you pause and play the video as needed, okay, and try some of these questions out on your own before you see how I do it, and then you can compare, your workflow with mine or your answer with mine and see kind of how much you actually understand of this topic, okay? So question one. Which data set has the highest mean? So remember, in this context, when we're talking about mean, okay, what we actually want is the average, okay? So how do we find the average? We're just going to add all the numbers that we have in my list or in my data set, and we're going to divide by the amount of numbers that we've added together, okay, the amount of data that we have. So let's do that for, let's say, A, right? Let's start in alphabetical order here. So we've got 78 plus 44 plus 68 plus 93 plus 44, right? So we've just taken the 5 numbers in my list and we've added them up. And like I said before, we're going to divide by the number of things we're adding. So the amount of data that we have, right? Which in this case is just 5. So we're going to divide by 5, okay? That's an awful looking 5. 5, okay. And so when we add these 5 numbers together, you're going to get 327, okay? And if we divide 327 by 5, you're going to get 65.4. So the answer for A, the mean for A, is 65.4. All right, so let's try that for B as well. Okay, so I'm not going to write the work out here because we've already done it for A, right? But just, kind of on your own calculator here, you can try that out. So 0 plus 98 plus 97 plus 90 plus 55 plus 72. Okay, maybe I'll write the sum here just so you guys can follow along. So for B, okay, what I got was 412, and I'm going to divide by how many numbers did we add up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 numbers, okay? So 412 divided by 6 is 68.7, okay? 68.7 is the average for B. So this is 68.7. Now let's try that again, but for C. So we're going to do 33 plus 55 plus 78 plus 100. And so for C, the sum I got was 266. And I'm going to divide by how many numbers are here? 4 numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you're counting correctly. Okay, so if we divide by 4, you're going to get 66.5. Okay. And last but not least here, for D, if we do 68 plus 50 plus 90, you're going to get 208. And we're going to divide by how many numbers do we add here? 3, right? So 208 divided by 3, that's going to be 69.3. So looking at these 4 averages here, maybe I'll write this down as well, 69.3. And here I'll write 66.5. Okay, looking at these 4 numbers here, the one with the highest mean is D. So we're going to go over here and we're going to circle D. That is the answer for question 1. So let's scroll down here to question 2. Now question 2 is asking, a bag has 4 red marbles, 10 blue marbles, and 6 green marbles. What is the probability of drawing a red marble followed by a green marble, then another green marble, all without replacement, right? So remember what this word means, what these terms mean here, without replacement, right? That just means every time we draw a marble, for example, like that first red marble, we're not putting it back. We're not replacing it before we pull out that green marble, okay? So that once we pull out that marble, it's out of the bag. We're not putting it back in the bag, okay? So first things first, okay? We've kind of got 3 things going on here, right? First, we draw a red marble. That's, let's say, event 1, okay? So E1, let's call that, okay? And then we've pulled out a green marble. Let's say that's event number 2. And then we followed that up by another green marble. That's event number 3. Okay, so we've got 3 things going on here. And what we're going to do in this case is we're going to find the probability of each of these events happening consecutively. And we're going to multiply them together. Okay, so let's kind of do that step by step here. So event number 1, the probability of drawing a red marble. Okay, so we want to know the number of red marbles in this bag. We've got 4 of them, right? It says in the question right here, we've got 4 red marbles. And how many marbles am I choosing from in total, right? How many marbles are in the bag, right? So 4 plus 10 is 14 plus 6 is 20. So there's 20 total marbles that I'm choosing from. 4 of them are red. So the chance of pulling a red marble is 4 out of 20, right? So that's the probability of event 1 occurring. Now, let's look at the second event here. We want to know the probability of pulling out a green marble, okay? So how many green marbles are left in the bag after I've pulled out the red marble? Well, since I haven't touched any green marbles yet, there should still be 6 green marbles in that bag. So there's still 6 green marbles. But how many marbles are left now in that bag? Well, I've already drawn the red marble, right? One of my 4 red marbles. So instead of 20 marbles in total, there's now only 19 marbles left, okay? And now, let's look at event 3, okay? The probability of pulling out another green marble. Well, in event 2, I've pulled out a green marble. So, and we haven't replaced it, right? So then now instead of 6 green marbles, there's only 5 green marbles left. And in the bag, there's not 19 marbles because we've took out a red one, and we've also taken out a green one. We've taken out 2 marbles. So 20 minus 2 is 18, okay? So now we know the probability of these 3 events happening independently. We can just multiply them up, right? So add a couple of multiplication signs here, and this on top is going to come out to 120, and on the bottom you're going to get 6,840. Okay, so remember when we multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators together and you multiply the denominators together. Okay, and this comes out to around 0.0175. Okay, and if you kind of punch all these fractions into your calculators, you should get that 0.0175 matches up with A. Okay, so that's the answer for question 2. All right, question 4. The following table shows the data collected from students surveyed in class. The average number of pets was determined to be 1.32. Okay, and we want to know what is the missing number x. So let's kind of practice looking at tables here, reading our tables, right? So we've surveyed students in class about the number of pets they've got. So in this column here is the number of pets, here's the number of students. So what does this mean? It's telling you that, well, 12 students have 0 pets, 20 students have 1 pet, 10 students have 2 pets. X, which is an unknown number, has 3 pets, and 2 students have 4 pets. And the reason why it's kind of in this table format, right, is because we have a lot of data. There's a lot of people that we've asked, right? And so you might be more comfortable seeing this as, you know, a list of data, right? So you can imagine if this was a list of data and we're trying to find the mean, right? So let's say we asked the first student, how many pets do you got, right? And he's like, oh, he or she is like 0, I have 0 pets. And you ask the second student and they've got 0 and 0 and 0. And then you do that and you get 0 12 times. And then you ask another student, they go, yeah, I have 1 pet and 1 pet and yeah, and this goes on 20 times. And then you do that for your entire table until you get to like your kind of 2 students who have 4 pets, right? So a lot of data here. And then you have to try to find the mean. You'd have to do 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 12 times, and you have to do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 20 times. That's a hassle, right? And if you have to write out all this data as a list, that could take forever, and it takes a lot of space, right? So essentially, if we have a lot of data, we don't want to do this. This is going to take forever, right? But what we can do instead, right, is instead of doing 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 12 times, you can just say, because remember, multiplication is just repeated addition, right? So instead of doing 0 plus 0 12 times, you can just do 0 times 12, which is just 0, right? And instead of doing 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 20 times, you can just do 1 times 20, and that's going to give you 20. And instead of doing 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, blah, blah, 10 times, just do 2 times 10, and that's also going to give you 20. And so we just have to multiply across the rows here, right? And so that's going to give you 3x, and that's going to give you 8. And essentially what we've done by multiplying across the row is we've already just done this whole addition of this whole list. We've done it in 5 quick steps here, okay? So that simplifies our life a ton. Now, to find the total sum of my list, we just have to take these 5 numbers and add them up, okay? So let's just do like a little addition sign here, and like that. And if we add up these 5 numbers here, you're going to get 48 plus 3x, right? And the reason why we have that 48 plus 3x is because this has a variable, that x there, so we cannot add it to that 48, okay? Now, if we want to divide by the number of data we've got, right, the amount of numbers we've added together, okay, we have to look at my frequency column. Frequency just means the number of people we've surveyed, right? Which in this case is the number of students, right? We didn't survey the pets. We asked the students about the number of pets they've got. So it's this column that we're going to add up, okay? So 12 plus 20 plus 10 plus x plus 2, that's going to come out to 44 plus x, okay? And we know the mean is 1.32. So let's scroll down a bit so I have a bit of work, a bit of space to work with, right? So what did we say the total sum of my list was? It was 48 plus 3x, right? And we're going to divide, right, because we're finding the average here, we're going to divide by the amount of data we've added up, which when we look at my frequency column, remember I wrote that in pink above, it was 44 plus x. And we know from the question that the average, let me scroll up again just to show you guys, is 1.32, right? Right here, 1.32. So we're going to scroll back down here. This is going to come out to 1.32. Okay, so let's find out what that, what these x's are, right? What is x? So to do that, we can do something like this, right? Let's 1.32 is the same thing as 1.32 over 1. Okay, and here in this case, we can do a little bit of a cross multiplication if that's something you like to do. Okay, so let's multiply this and this. You're going to get on the left-hand side here, 48 plus 3x times 1 is just going to be 48 plus 3x, right? On the left-hand side here, you're going to have 1.32 times 44 plus x, right? And so in this case, you have to be very careful here. We're going to do a little distribution, okay, a little bit of a rainbow method. So 1.32 times 44, that's going to be 58.08. And then 1.32 times x is just going to be 1.32x, right? And now we can simplify a bit here. So let's subtract 48 from both sides. So 48 minus 48 cancels out. Here you're going to get, let me go back to this color here. We've got 3x on the left. On the right, 58.08 minus 48 is 10.08 plus 1.32 x. And then we have to subtract that 1.32x from both sides so that we have all our x's on the left. Okay, so minus 1.32x. Let me fix this x real quick because that doesn't look like an x. Okay, and so on the right hand side here, these are going to cancel out because 1.32x minus 1.32x is 0. And on the left side, I'm going to get 1.68x is equal to 10.08. And so now if I want to find out what x is exactly, I'm going to divide both sides by that coefficient, 1.68. Okay. And 1.68 divided by 1.68 is 1, so I could just kind of cross it out here. Okay, we've got x on the left, and that's going to be equal to 6. And that's the answer for question 4. Okay, so your x, that missing number in this table here, is just 6. Okay, so you can go over here, and x is equal to 6. All right, that's the answer for question 4. All right, question 5. A box contains 9 blue marbles, 11 green marbles, and 12 red marbles. You pick 2 marbles, one after the other with replacement, then you flip a coin, then you roll a die twice. What is the probability that you picked a red marble, then a green one, landed tails on the coin toss, and then rolled 6 twice in a row? All right, so first things first, let's be very careful here, okay? It says with replacement. So remember, with replacement means after we've taken out that first marble, okay, which is what we're taking in this case, we're going to put it back in before we take the next marble, okay? We replace the first marble before we take out the next marble, okay? So this is very similar to question 3, which we did earlier in this video. So there's a couple things happening here, right? First, the first event here is picking a red marble, so we've got event number 1, okay? Then event 2 is picking that green marble, so event 2. Then landing tails on the coin toss, that's going to be event 3. Then rolling a 6 the first time, that's going to be event 4. And then my 5th event here is landing 6 on that second die roll. Okay. So let's look at the first event here. Okay, it's the probability of picking out that red marble, right? Where is it? Right here. Picking a red marble. Okay. So how many red marbles do I have in my box? And in this case, it's 12. Right? We've got 12 red marbles. So the chance of picking a red marble is 12 out of how many marbles? So let's add some numbers up here. 9 plus 11 is 20, plus 12, that's 32. So 12 out of 32 of my marbles are red. So we have a 12 in 32 probability, or 12 in 32 chance of pulling out that red marble. Now after we've taken out that red marble, we're going to put it back in before we take our second marble. Okay, and we want to know what's the probability of getting a green one. So my second event here is that green marble, pulling a green marble. And there's 11 green marbles out of 32. So it's 11 on 32. That's my second event. Now my third event is landing tails on the coin toss. So on a coin, there's two sides. One side is tails, one side is heads. So I have a 50-50 chance, right? 1 out of 2 chance of landing tails. On a regular 6-sided die, we've got 6 sides. Only one side is a 6. So we've got a 1 on 6 chance of rolling a 6. And event 5 is also rolling a 6. So it's also a 1 on 6 chance. Okay. And now just to find the probability, we're going to multiply all of these fractions up. Okay. And once again, when we're multiplying fractions, remember it's the numerators get multiplied together. So 12 times 11 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 132. And the denominators here, 32 times 32 times 2 times 6 times 6 is 73728. Okay. And that comes out to a probability of, well, as a decimal, 0.00179. Okay, that's, I don't know why I put multiply here. Well, yeah, you can multiply this by 100, and that's going to give you 0.179%. Okay, so remember to go from a decimal to a percentage, you multiply by 100. Okay, and so that's your probability, and that's your answer for question 5. Now, last but not least, question 6. So magic tricks. Sarah, a magician, is capable of performing 3 tricks. The first trick is selecting a green marble followed by a blue marble from a bag that contains 6 red marbles, 4 green marbles, and 6 blue marbles without replacement. So remember, without replacement means we're not putting that first marble back in, yeah? Now, trick 2 is landing on the letter M on the first spin of the spinner below. So you see the spinner here, and it says magic trick on that spinner. So she's going to spin it, and it's going to land on M. Okay. And trick number 3 is flipping a coin and landing on heads, and then from a pack of 5 cards running from 1 to 5, picking the number 3. Now, Sarah claims that all 3 tricks have an equal probability or equal chance of occurring. Her assistant, Jim, argues that this is not the case, and we want to know who is correct. So basically, to figure out this question, to solve this question, we have to figure out the probability of all 3 tricks occurring, right? The success rate of the 3 tricks. So trick number 1 is selecting a green marble followed by a blue marble from a bag that contains 6 red marbles, 4 green marbles, and 6 blue marbles. So here we have 2 events, right? The first event is selecting that green marble. The second event is selecting the blue marble. So how many green marbles do I have in total? We've got 4 green marbles, right? So 4, and that's 4 out of how many? So we have to know how many marbles I have in total in that bag. So 6 plus 4 plus 6, that is 16. I've got 4 out of 16. Okay, that's my first probability. Now I'm going to multiply it to my second probability. So how many blue marbles do I have left in that second draw? Well, there's still 6 blue marbles. I haven't touched any blue marbles yet. So it's 6. And how many marbles do I have left in the bag? Well, I've removed one of the green ones. So instead of 16 here, it should be 15 in my denominator. Okay? And so now we just multiply that out. On top, 4 times 6, that's 24. On the bottom, 16 times 15, that's 240. So that's going to reduce down to 1 out of 10, or 10%. Okay, so that's the probability for trick number 1. Now, on to trick number 2 here, landing on the letter M on the first spin of the spinner below. So let's look at how many M's I have on the spinner, and there's actually only one, right? Let me just circle it right here in pink. Okay, so there's only one M out of how many sections do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have a 1 out of 10 chance of landing on M, which is also a 10% chance. Okay. And last but not least here, trick number 3 is flipping a coin and landing on heads, and then from a pack of 5 cards running from 1 to 5, picking the number 3. So, okay, let's look at the first event, which is flipping a coin and landing on heads. Well, flipping a coin, okay, we know coin toss is a 50-50 chance, right, as long as it's fair. And if it doesn't specify that's not fair, then we're going to assume this coin is a fair coin. It's 50-50, okay? So the probability of landing on heads is going to be 1 out of 2. And now my second event is from a pack of 5 cards running 1 to 5. So we've got 5 cards. They look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Okay. I want to pick the number 3. So there's only one card here with the number 3 out of 5 options. So the probability of my second event occurring is 1 out of 5, right? There's only one card with 3, and there's 5 cards in total. So when we multiply this out, top times top, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 5 is 10. So this also comes out to a 10% chance. Okay. So if you scroll back up here, all 3 tricks, okay, trick number 1 has 10%, trick number 2 also has a 10% success rate, trick number 3 also 10% chance of happening. So Sarah, okay, is correct, right? Sarah's the one who says that all the tricks have the same probability. So Sarah is correct. Okay. And that's all you have to do for question 6. You can even be, a bit more specific if you wanted to. You could say something like, all the tricks have a 10% chance of success, and then put a little smiley face. And that's all you have to do for question 6, okay? And if you have any other questions, just let me know in the comments below. And apart from that, have a great day.